بالعالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Well, alhamdulillah, my dear brothers and sisters, this evening we conclude the chapter of Hajj and Umrah, alhamdulillah. And this will be the third chapter that we conclude from this book. We first did Kitab al-Tahara. We started with that about 2 years ago. Then from there we went into Kitab al-Salah. And now this evening we conclude Kitab al-Hajj wal-Umrah. Alhamdulillah. Beloved brothers and sisters, the topic as we conclude this chapter this evening explores the issue of kaffara, explores the issue of if a mistake is made or something is left out in the Hajj or Umrah, how does one compensate for that mistake? How does one make up for that particular mistake? So we explored over the past few weeks of the arkan of Hajj and Umrah, which we can't overlook. Then we looked at actions which are of the wajibat, those things which are obligatory. And this evening we now explore, and we looked at the sunnah actions as well. We looked at tartib, the days of Hajj and so forth. This evening we close, inshallah, this chapter by exploring the prohibitions. The kafara, the expiation. But to just refresh our memory, what are some of the prohibitions, things that you can't do when you're in a state of ihram? Because we're going to respond to these, inshallah, this evening. So a quick reminder, I'll list them quickly. If a male covers his head deliberately, if a male wears any garment that is sewn or stitched, if males or females wear gloves, again point 4, if females cover their face, and we touched on this point previously for women who generally do not wear niqab. Point 5, if you put on any oils, attar and so forth, if you apply that to your body or to your hair, your beard, adding oil to your hair, removing of nails, if you kill an animal in a state of ihram, if you contract a marriage, and also engaging in sexual intercourse. So these things are not permitted. The first 8, for those who are watching online and those in the masjid, the first 8, those in yellow, there is a kafara for that. Meaning that if you do any of those in error, there is a way to make up for it. Alhamdulillah, this is Allah's rahmah. So it's so beautiful because when you are performing your Umrah or Hajj and you really want to do everything perfectly and you make a mistake, it's good to know that there's a way to make up for any of these. Then point 9, if you contract a marriage, if you propose, if you get married, or if you put the marriage through, you an alim or whatever it might be, there is no kafara for it, but the marriage is invalid. So there is no nikah, because it can't occur in a state of ihram. And then the last one, the one in orange, if you engage in sexual intercourse, we have to acknowledge that it invalidates the ibadah. So if you are in a state of ihram, performing your hajj, and you engage in sexual relations, your hajj is invalidated. But there is still also kafara to come out of the state of ihram, even though that the hajj is invalidated. So you hear me using the word kafara, which means an expiation, to have that sin lifted. Then when we talk about Hajj and Umrah, there's another popular word. If you look at Hajj packages, they sometimes say dam included. You know, those are the packages the Hujjaj often try to select, the ones that say dam included. So this means that your penalty or the blood sacrifice, dam, literally in Arabic means blood. And so within the context of Hajj and Umrah, it is the blood sacrifice that is made as compensation for something that had been done in the Hajj or Umrah. We also get the word fidya. And fidya means a compensation, and your fidya could be a dam, meaning you can have the compensation through a dam that you pay, or it could be through feeding people, and we're going to get into that inshallah. When is there a choice? and when do you have to sort of pay it. So the dam, another important point, Jazakallah khairan to the brothers who reminded me last week after Maghrib, that the dam must be paid and seen to in Makkah. Very important point. So if a dam is upon you, you can't Google and see where's the cheapest sheep in the world, and buy a sheep in Zimbabwe or somewhere. No, the dam must be paid. The slaughtering must occur in Makkah. Very important point. And the dam generally is a sheep. That is the general calculation. All right. So let's go into what the author says are the 5 categories of dam. And I'll move through this quickly, inshallah. The first category is when you miss of the wajibat, right? When you miss of the wajibat. So to refresh our memory, what would be of the wajibat? Let's say you leave your miqat. I gave this example a few weeks ago. You cross your miqat, the male forgot to take off his underwear, right? So you left with niyyah, because niyyah from miqat is of the arkan. You must have niyyah, or else there would be no ibadah. But let's say you cross the miqat and your underpants is still on, the males. Now you have invalidated of the wajibat of the hajj or umrah, of the ihram. So in that instance, a sheep is upon you. So if you omit of the wajibat, and it's very important, the ulama highlight, this is the order. If you can afford a sheep, then you must pay for the slaughtering of a sheep. If you can't afford it during the Hajj period, then you can go to the second option, which is the fasting of 10 days. 3 days in Mecca and 7 days back in your hometown. So that's it. And so there isn't technically a choice. If you have the money to pay for the dam, you'd opt for that first. No money, then you fast. That applies to omitting all wajibat. The second category is if you shave, you remove hair, you apply oils or so forth. Here you have a choice. So it's not automatically that you must slaughter a sheep. You can choose. Either you slaughter a sheep, or you fast 3 days, or you feed 6 people, and each person must receive about, what the ulama have written about 3 liters of food, that amount of food per person. So there's a choice if you shave. If you didn't complete your hajj, for whatever reason, you slaughter a sheep. And of course, there is no hajj naturally. It's still upon you, but you'd slaughter a sheep. If you killed an animal, mashallah, I reflect on this beautifully. If you kill an animal, then you have to slaughter an animal similar to that which you killed in the state of ihram, right? So if you evaluate and you compare it to the camel, the cow, the goat, or the sheep. If you can't find that, then you get the value of that animal and you give that amount of food in sadaqah. And if you can't afford food, then you fast, importantly, 1 day for each half a liter of food as you calculated for the animal. So it's quite clear in terms of how we determine that. I'm smiling because they said, what if you kill a mosquito? Well, what is the analysis over there? And of course, the ulama have written that we're exploring animals, essentially, but don't necessarily kill the mosquitoes, but try and avoid killing anything, in fact. And then lastly, if you engage in sexual intercourse, now remember, it invalidates the hajj, but there is still a dam upon you, and it's the biggest dam. You must slaughter a camel. Okay, so if you are in the state of ihram and there's a little bit of feelings, just ask yourself, can you slaughter the camel? Can you afford it? Okay, and if not a camel, then a cow, and if not a cow, then 7 sheep. No 7 sheep, 7 goats. No 7 goats, then you must give the value of the camel in food as charity. So to quickly summarize that, let's go into the first category that we have there, which is sort of your lesser category. Any of the actions of covering a male's head, wearing a sewn garment, putting on attar and so forth, you slaughter a sheep or you fast for 3 days, or you feed 6 poor people, you calculate the amount that you're going to give there. The second area is if you remove nails or hair, it would be 3 liters of food, and some ulama have calculated also 1.5 kilograms of rice. Now, how does this work when it comes to hair? Because hair is the common thing. Some men are in the state of ihram and they play with their beards, absent-mindedly, and they remove hair. And this is a big challenge. That's why you have to be very conscious in the state of ihram. So the ulama have said that for this dam to apply, you need 3 hairs. So if you played and there were 3 hairs that came out, then for every instance when there's 3 hairs, it would be that amount of food that you have to give. If it's excessive, then they say you take the top category, and that is the slaughtering of a sheep. Okay? And if you did this, let's say you early on in the Umrah or the Hajj, you removed some hair, a dam applies. And then later that day, still in the state of ihram, you removed your nails, another dam applies. Okay, you're not covered for the remainder of your Hajj for all mistakes. It would be a dam that is then added. And then if you hunt the wild animal, it is the equivalent of that animal. And marriage, as we indicated, there isn't a dam, but there is no marriage. And sexual intercourse, we indicated that your ibadah is invalidated and you have to slaughter a camel. So we close this chapter acknowledging that the obligatory actions, the wajibat, will require a dam, and each action will require a corresponding kafara. You have to be clear on the kafara that applies. And with that, my dear brothers and sisters, we say wa sallallahu wa sallam alayhi walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. We conclude Kitab al-Hajj wal-Umrah. Jazakallah khairan.